Hello everybody, welcome back to Field Medic Mondays. Today we are doing the Boundless and True Q&A. I'm just gonna dive right in so this video is not hella long. Bailey Claire asks, what was the inspo for the album cover art? When I first started working with Daniel, who's been doing all my art recently, we were trying to think of building a world around Field Medic imagery, and that is how the Dope Girl Chronicles shirt came to be. We were talking about the concept of the floral prints. So the cover of the record, that character is sort of the floral prints motif. I was already gonna put it on the crew neck, and then when I started putting together the compilation, for some reason I knew I wanted the cover to be a drawing, so I started drawing some of my own sort of test covers that looked pretty not good. And then I realized that I already had this design coming out on the crew neck that was also a square, so it's just like already an album cover as is. And so it doesn't correlate directly to the songs on the compilation, but it correlates to the Medic universe as a whole. And that's really from the mind of Daniel Benayoun. Serve Down on Him asked about the lyrics of Being High and Horny being changed on the OTL edit and why. So the reason that recording exists is because somebody had DM'd me and said that they wanted to play OTL at their wedding. I don't know if it was for their first dance or walking down the aisle. I don't know, I can't recall. But they said that they really wanted to play it because the song was important for their relationship. They asked me, is there an edited version available? Because we don't want to like play the parts about like railing pills in front of our parents and grandparents. I said there isn't an edited one available, but I'll just record one for you really quick. I had made that specifically for them. I had leaked it on YouTube eventually. I just thought it'd be a fun thing to put at the end because it's a fun song. It was made specifically for somebody's family to be able to hear it. Sam Kusera asks, what was your fave song to track or produce? I think I'm Numb to Everything That Isn't Pain is probably the most fun song to produce. The rhythm, which is the drum beat and the kind of wacky bass line, is just a loop off this tiny keyboard that I found at a thrift store. So the part that's like dun 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 dun. I heard that loop and I thought it was really interesting, and I figured out the chords, which is where the guitar chords came from. But you can hear in the recording there's like a clicking sound in between the. So I was like playing the loop live. So I wrote the song and I like had the structure memorized, and I would press play on the drum and bass loop, and then I would know when the verse was gonna end, and I would have to switch over to the weird trip out doodle sound. And then at the end, when it's going there's like this drum pad on this keyboard, so I was playing those drums too. It was just fun. That song sounds so crazy, and I think that that's because that keyboard and the way that I had to make that recording. And I think just my favorite song in general, I like that song. I feel inspired by The Friendly Orthodontist because it's so silly while also being pretty emo. I mean, that song was written the morning after I leaked floral prints on Twitter and kind of got in trouble with my former record label. I got so drunk after I went to the orthodontist and got my permanent retainer replaced, and I just leaked the SoundCloud of floral prints on Twitter. The story, maybe it's just for me because it actually happened to me like that, is just so funny, and I just like that song. But I honestly like them all. I think they're all really cool in their own way. But of course, I would say that they're my songs. So there's a couple questions about Dandelion Dream, and I'm just gonna condense them all into one. What do the lyrics of Dandelion Dream mean? Do they still ring true 12 years later? How old were you when you wrote Dandelion Dream? Was it always a Medic song, or was it a Rintin Tiger song? In 2012, I was, how old am I now? What year is it? 2012 plus 10. I think I was 20 or 21. I really, as you can see, math is not my strongest subject. I was whatever age I was then, 20 or something. The lyrics, I think, are about that beginning stage of a relationship where you really like someone, but you haven't yet determined that you're in a relationship. And then maybe they say or do something that contradicts the way that you had been treating the situation you're in. And you're like, damn, I am spooked out that you would do that. But then again, like, we're not actually together, so like, I guess you can. So that's where the whole thing of I'm your blind boy, I'm just gonna choose to ignore that because you're my Dandelion Dream. It was not always a Rintin Tiger song. Dandelion Dream was recorded before Field Medic even existed. So I had just gotten my first Tascam 4-track cassette recorder. I don't know if I did Dandelion Dream first or Broken Part, which is the last song on the Crush Pennies EP, but Dandelion Dream might be the first song I ever recorded to cassette, and that's why the recording is kind of clipping and it's not very well thought out. I guess that was like a Kevin Sullivan song. How did you learn to stop hating being sober? First of all, congratulations on making it through rehab, and I'm really sorry that you're dealing with addiction. It's really a fucked up animal addiction of any sort. I sympathize with you. So when I made I Hate Being Sober, I relapsed after I made that song. I had these spurts where I was sober for like 3 months or 6 months, and something would always happen that would lead me to drink again. And in the last 2 years, my current ongoing sobriety, found a therapist that I really liked who understood me, and he's also a sober guy as well, so he understands the plight of addiction and the ways it can be very confusing. And when I had been sober for like 4 or 5 months on this run, I started to have this really bad anxiety, and I learned that what was making me drink so much or use other substances so much was because I have this anxiety disorder and this OCD tendency and obviously depression. And I was talking to him and I told him that I was getting so anxious and I was on the verge of having panic attacks. I feel like if I can't figure out how to make this better, I could be susceptible to drinking again. So he encouraged me to try a magic little drug called Lexapro. For years and years, I kind of just wanted to like figure it out on my own, but I was at a point where I was willing to try, and I started taking Lexapro, which is an antidepressant and also sort of acts as an anti-anxiety med to some degree, and that really helped me get over the hurdle of the anxiety that I was dealing with that was leading me to drink. So I would say talk therapy, and for me, Lexapro. And I hope that you find your way to peace and happiness, and I'm sorry that the song resonates with you, but I believe in you and I know you can make it through this. What time were Do What You Want and I'm Numb to Everything That Isn't Pain recorded? Do What You Want was pretty much, I would call that like a Light Is Gone 1 B-side, 2015 or so, because that was written in that same batch of songs. And I had actually recorded that a couple different times, but the recording that I chose to put on was the first one I did with the 4-track. I thought that the song was too scary to release at that time, but I wanted to add a couple songs that weren't leaked yet, and that one I always liked, despite the fact that I thought it was kind of scary, so I put it on there. And then I'm Numb to Everything That Isn't Pain was recorded in the same time frame that I recorded Plunge Deep Golden Knife EP, so that was like 2020? Yeah, 2015 and 2020. Robin BV2XC says, what rituals, habits, and practices help you in the art making process? I take a very disciplined approach to making art. With that being said, I feel almost compelled against my will to make art. If I don't have some sort of project I'm working on, I get hella emo. I'll just sort of decide I'm gonna make a song. Even if I'm not in the mood to make a song, I'll just go into my stew or I'll grab a guitar and go sit outside and I'll just literally force myself to write a song. I guess that's a habit, which is also a discipline, making the choice to make a song even when inspiration doesn't strike. And also a more mellow habit is I journal every morning, first thing. I don't look at my phone for like 2 or 3 hours. I journal and I read and I let myself have that clear-mindedness to approach whatever sort of creative thing I might want to do. Journaling and reading also, just the act of reading, like putting words into your brain, makes you think more poetically, even if it's not poetry, but like, you know, reading novels and stuff, like the way the passages are and the vocabulary that you acquire by reading it. So reading, writing, and then when all else fails, just literally forcing myself to make music or write poems or something. Like I used to just sit down and write like 20 haikus in a row just because. What I do when I force myself to write stuff is I will write it and then I won't look at it. I don't give myself any time to be judging what I've written. I just write it and I close the page. Then maybe, let's say the next day I'm trying to force myself to record a song, and then I open up these, 20 poems I just wrote, and then I pluck out the good parts. Because I think there's always good stuff if you go stream of conscious. Just let it go and don't worry about about it. I hope that helps. Raven Claypool asked about how to break through writer's block, which is the same sort of thing I just discussed. I just force myself to get out of writer's block. I'm like more than happy to make something horrible. I've made so many like super shitty beats and like rap songs that suck, folk songs that suck. I'll just make stuff that sucks to keep the muscle strong. There's honestly like joy for me if I have a session on my computer. The project is called like Shitty Song, and it's funny to listen to it a couple months later. So just discipline. I just keep going. Raz C7 asks, did you ever have plans to re-record Momentary Superstition? I did not. And I think I still don't. To be honest, I don't even know how to play that song. I'm pretty sure it's in some weird tuning. And also, when I recorded it on the phone, in that exact moment in time when I was feeling it, I just always thought that that recording captured the mood that I was trying to convey in that song. So, no plans, then or now. Sienna May says, any fun backstory to I Wanna Party? So this song was written in another bout of sobriety, probably a year or two before the I Hate Being Sober time frame. And I went to the doctor. I hadn't been to the doctor in hella years because I didn't have health care. And then I finally got on Medi-Cal and I went to get a physical, and I'm like a recovering hypochondriac. They took my blood to, check my vitals or whatever. And I got that call, which is the voicemail at the beginning of the song, that just sounded hella ominous. The dude was like, hey man, like I want to talk to you about these results. Give me a call back. And I was just like, holy shit, something's horribly wrong with me. Turns out everything was fine. But the anxiety that I dealt with in that period of sobriety, untherapied, unmedicated, it's like that song Head Case. I'm just on WebMD Googling my own symptoms and wondering what's going on. So I was just sort of convinced that my years of substance abuse had led to something being horribly wrong with me. And I also was just kind of bummed. I just wanted to go out and rage, but I had this feeling that if I kept drinking and partying that I would die. I want to party, but I can't. And that song is actually kind of like a cousin song with Everything Has Been Going So Well Freestyle. Those two songs were written like at the same time. Boundless and True lyrically reminds me of some Woody Guthrie's work. What inspired the lyrics of that song? First of all, thank you. Woody Guthrie is definitely the GOAT. That song, if I recall correctly, I think I was writing a poem, which was the first verse of that song. And then when it started rhyming so much, I realized that it was probably a song, so I just picked up the guitar, and I must have been listening to some like traditional folk on that day or leading up to that day, because obviously the energy of that song is very traditional folk, so I started singing it. The inspiration was just thinking about the various conspiracies within all industries in this world and different classes and the disparity of wealth, etc., etc. So definitely in that mindset, just my own thoughts on the matter. How did you end up finalizing the track list? I relied heavily on the Discord for that. They helped me initially pluck the tracks out, and then I kept asking them, like, should I put this? Should I put that? So shout out to the Discord. You guys have helped me a lot. The main reason I actually wanted to make this compilation was Dandelion Dream. When I put that on YouTube last year, or the beginning of this year, so many people seemed to like it, and I was kind of shocked because I always liked it a lot, but I didn't realize that there was an audience for it. So that's kind of where like the seed of the idea came from, was just people responding to that recording. And then I just started to think about all these other random songs that I like. Like I really like that song, I Love You Mama, But I Gotta Know. So the Discord helped me with the general idea. And then of course I had songs that I felt deserved to be out. And it wasn't too hard to pick, because there's still a lot of songs on this channel that aren't on the compilation, but they're sort of the even more loose, like random freestyle kind of songs, like 3 Weeks in Hell and the Great Depression freestyle. So hopefully there'll be another one, because I have more songs I want to start leaking soon. And then the final question is, why does The Loss of Life sound different on the record? This question actually reminded me that when I put The Loss of Life up, I had actually gone back into the session and replaced the bass with MIDI bass, because on the recording that's on the compilation, I recorded the whole song with this acoustic classical guitar, and I had just played the bass on the classical guitar. So the version that's on YouTube, I had sort of reproduced with the MIDI bass, and I probably like remixed it a little bit, but I actually fully forgot that I did that. So when I went to master the songs, I just used the original mix which Derek had mixed like 5 years ago or whatever when we made the song. So that's why, but everything else should be exactly the same. Thank you for these questions. I hope I answered them adequately. I was in the studio with Derek and Nate the Great recording drums on the new album yesterday, so things are moving. I'm gonna be taking the next week off of Field Medic Mondays for the holiday, and then I'll be back on the last Monday of the year for a year in review. So that's pretty much it. Boundless and True is still out. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.